Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. The Preserve is in the books, and we're basically, Josh, halfway through the 2022 season, if you can believe it.
I cannot believe. I mean, it's July this week. Where did that come from?
I can't. 4th of July is here. Summer is here. The days are starting to get shorter. I know that's sacrilegious to say, but it is true. And you know, we got majors coming up now. We're going to be on that steady diet of majors at this point. And so it's going to be really exciting. You know, I think it's huge to have that early major, but certainly the back half of the season is still powerhouse. I just checked it on the Multi-World Disc Golf schedule page. We've had 15 events, majors, Silver Series, Elite Series, and there's 15 to go. So we're basically dead straight at the halfway point.
Perfect.
Before we talk disc golf, Josh, how was your weekend and how are things?
Actually, Charlie, it was an incredible weekend. So, I'm a baby when it comes to heat, right? I know it's dry heat in Idaho. I know 85 is not hot to most people in this country. I don't care. It's hot to me and I don't like it. I go play disc golf at like 6 a.m. so I can not be in the heat because I don't like 85-degree weather. Now, that being said, I also love ice as a consequence, right? Because I just don't like being hot. And I went and bought a standalone ice maker that does 26 pounds of ice in 24 hours. And I've been having nothing but cold beverages all the time. And it's wonderful.
So, like, what are you just having ice water? Like, what? Give us a sampling of your beverages.
Lemonade, Coke, you name it. Like, if I could put ice in it, I probably did.
You're going full glass of ice every time.
Oh, I do. I 100%. And it's little, like, it's not quite nugget ice, but it's like bullet ice is what they call them. They're about yay big. And so, like, I'll just fill up my cup and then I have like Coke flavored slushy, basically. So,
do you chew ice?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a big ice chewer too.
When I go to a gas station and get a fountain drink, I don't get a lid for road trips so that I can chew on the ice as we're driving, because that's
good. No, You're not creating extra waste for no reason.
That's right.
Because you're going to eat the ice.
I know I am every time.
Appliances. So, ice machine is one of the things I want in my dream kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm a renter in New York City right now, so like I'm thinking ahead to when I buy a place and what I want. Huge stove, wok station, dishwasher. Nice. Dishwasher is like almost a stove is number one key. Gas stove, dishwasher 2. Ice machine's up there though. I'll tell you what. I also like if I could really go all out, I want a flat top and deep fryer, and then a grill and smoker outside. Like, I'm not playing around out
I
there,
have both of those. I've got a charcoal, propane, and a smoker. So
that's nice.
Yes,
that's nice.
Big fan.
Sometimes you just need the propane.
Yes.
Sometimes you just want to cook something quick. Yep. You don't want to wait 25 minutes for the charcoal to get hot.
That's right.
Anyway,
I like summer.
I know everybody's here for our food takes and our appliance takes. So this is it's an appliance show now. We're going to review the best
Sears.
ice makers. Sears. That's the best we could do. We're like, hey, you guys got like $20 left, right? Okay, let's talk some disc golf. We had a fantastic Rapid React show on Sunday night following the Preserve for subscribers. So we hope you become a subscriber so that you can join us for that. And really, it's like a full episode. So you should go check it out. We talk a lot about Bradley Williams, of course, getting his first win on tour since he won the Vibram Open in 2016, the very first ever Disc Golf Pro Tour event. And he won it 6 years ago to the day that he won the Preserve. This is spooky stuff, folks. And he said in his post-round interview, like, there were forces outside of my control pulling me to the destiny that I had. And you know what? Sometimes you got to just lean into that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like, he and Paige Pierce won the first ever Pro Tour event, and now they've won the most recent Pro Tour event. So I think what needs to happen now is the Pro Tour needs to shut down, and then, we just have this beautiful bookends, and, I don't know what happens next, but It would be a nice coda.
I think just Bradley Williams needs to win again in 6 years. So this is just the midway point.
At age 75, Bradley Williams
now winning his 30th.
He's just like, he focuses his training on the one tournament every 6 years. It's like the Olympics. So
he shows up.
We're not going to dig too deep into preserve talk today, specific preserve talk, because we did a bunch of it in our Rapid React show. So we hope you check that out. You can become a subscriber for less than $4 a month at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. And that's available in the subs only RSS feed. And so I do, just kind of want to like reflect a little bit on preserve before we get into a new segment that we're calling Trend or Anomaly. And we've also got a mid-season check-in coming a little bit later in the show as we kind of just take stock of where things stand after, the halfway point of the season. And one of 4 majors in the books. So obviously Paige Pierce dominating an FPO, no Kristen Tatar in the field because Silverlock got COVID. She couldn't make the trip. She's not going to be at US Women's either, unfortunately. So, I mean, it didn't feel like a drama-filled weekend in FPO, Josh. But we're going to talk more about Ella Hansen, who finished tied for second, when we get to our midseason check-in, because she's got some very interesting stats to her name. But look, this was Paige coming out of the gate, getting 8 of 9 birdies to start, and I was like, okay, see ya, right? I'll see you guys in 3 days with the trophy and the ring. So, it's one of those weekends where it's just like, yep, tip your cap.
Yeah, and the phrase that I used on the Rapid React show that I still just feel like best describes it is it felt like Paige was just stiff-arming the competition the entire weekend, right? Not so far run away that I wanted to turn it off. There were moments that you saw Paige, get a bogey in the final round, and you thought maybe if someone else can string together a couple birdies, this might get interesting again. And then, they got close, and she just put her palm to their face and kept them just enough distance. That's just what I'm imagining all weekend long. It made it interesting golf. I think it's a lot of things that were really telling about it. Paige is back and seems like in good form, and I think she. We'll talk more about this on Thursday, obviously, but feels like a big favorite going into U.S. Women's.
Yes, and then of course so Bradley Williams, he's not been great this season. I mean. Yeah, he's a good disc golfer, and it's very pleasurable to watch him play the game.
Yes,
because he's just so smooth with the disc. Like watching him throw up shots, with the throw in that he had blind, like this so beautiful technical shot. Like he can't believe it goes in, but I can because the guy just throws the disc buttery smooth. And he's been a good disc golfer for a long time, but to see him come out and get a win. It's a surprise, but this is the kind of thing that I think we're going to continue to see at the top of the game, which is that somebody puts together 3 really good rounds. He didn't blow everybody away. It's not like he shot the hot round in each round. No. But he was the most consistently good player, and that meant that he won. And, Ricky put on a furious charge late, but it wasn't enough for him to catch up and catch Bradley because he went cold down the stretch. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like he missed a putt he should have made on, was it 17 or 16? And then, he misses his tee shot. Everybody's like, oh, he went OB. Like that was the problem. But the reason he went OB on 18 is because his tee shot was in the high grass. And because the footing was bad, then he kind of slipped and then he went OB. But like, that's the beauty of the natural OB that is created by difficult footing off the fairway. And this is where disc golf needs to trend to. And Josh, you talked about this in our Rapid React show, that like, that's how you create challenge for disc golfers, right? It's not trying to chip a golf ball out of sand trap, right? Sand trap is, sand is sort of interesting as like a footing, because it's a little loose, but there's a lot of ways to create challenge, and like high plants is a really good one.
So I've actually been thinking a lot about this because I remembered, and we mentioned this a little bit, and so shout out to whoever provided this info. I remembered the preserve not looking great in previous years because it turns out there were severe droughts and wildfires that meant that just access to water meant, it was very brown. Trees didn't have nearly as many leaves. And the ground just did not look nice, that nice at all. And this preserve looked night and day different to previous preserve, and the course continues to be improved and developed. And I've been thinking a lot about why that is and what lessons we can take away from the preserve. And I think that the preserve offers us a view into what the future of disc golf courses are going to look like on the Pro Tour.
Oh,
and here's why. Glendoveer is a beautiful facility. It is incredible. And if it starts bringing enough money, the Disc Golf Pro Tour does, I could see a world in which, we continue to use pristine golf resort courses. And remember, that's used for like all-star event. It's been used for some match play events where they go to country clubs and use their golf course in those facilities.
OTBs on a golf course.
OTB, right. Absolutely. So there are plenty that are done on temporary golf courses that have access to gorgeous facilities. I think right now, yes, they get revenue from it, but that's probably not a cash cow for most golf courses, right? It's something that they do that it makes enough money for that weekend to overcome the loss of not having golfers, but it's not like they're taking in six figures from the Disc Golf Pro Tour to use this facility. But the preserve on an abandoned golf course is an amazing choice for a couple reasons. Number one, I did some math here, or pulled some statistics. Golf courses have closed at a rate of about 11% from the years 2003 to 2018. 6.2 million golfers have moved away from the game, and it's led to about 1,200 golf courses closing in a similar time period. COVID did some weird stuff with golf because unlike disc golf, almost all golf courses were completely closed during COVID, but now they've seen kind of a little bump back up post-COVID. I don't know how sustainable that bump is, though. Unlike disc golf that was already trending up and then received a boom, I feel like golf's is not nearly as sustainable. I think it's still probably going to be trending in the opposite, in the wrong direction. And so as especially municipal golf courses close, I think developers are going to want some golf courses. Some are in pristine areas and are gorgeous, and developers are going to.
And you still got a lot of people who are willing to pay $250 greens fees to play the best golf courses. I don't even know if that's a real number. It's probably higher than that for the best places to play.
Sure.
But Scottsdale, Myrtle Beach, people go on golf vacations. Yes, they're mostly boomers in their 60s and 70s, but that's still a big thing. Anyway, continue.
Yes. Anyway, but especially in the West, where drought is a serious concern, especially smaller cities that don't have the same access to water, who can't purchase water rights at the same level as bigger cities, who don't have, their natural aquifers just aren't as large. They're starting to allow their golf courses to fall a little bit into disrepair because just, the financial and water costs of keeping golf courses open is extensive. Disc golf does not need perfectly manicured grass in order to be played. And I think Kale's course showed us that there were some dead grass patches that they don't look the best, but I think that they're okay. And it looks like a nice natural, golf course and facility for disc golf. But the advantage of getting these properties that are in the less ideal areas is, number one, they're oftentimes closer to urban areas than we would otherwise be able to get land for disc golf courses when you're looking at price comparisons. Number two is it doesn't require the same level of maintenance as if we were to try and become, part of the Glendoveer facility, for example, and the maintenance costs are significantly less. But number three is Kale talked about on one of the Jomez videos with Big Germ, shows him one of the gaps on one of the holes that he had just cut the trees out that used to separate some of the fairways and created a line and a gap where there never was one before. And that's the kind of freedom that comes with Kale owning that property and with the tall grass that like we talked about, that's the freedom that comes with owning that kind of property. And I think that old abandoned golf courses are not only going to increase in number in lots of areas, but could be truly the future of where disc golf is played in our open, more, you know, long distance courses that we want to have near urban areas.
I'll tell you what. I've been trying to get this guy on the show for years, literally. I like email him once every 6 months, and he just hasn't said yes, and that's okay. Maybe we'll never get him on, but I'll keep trying. But there's a golf course facility in Maine, and I think I've talked about this before, and I got to make sure that I get the name right here. I'm probably going to forget what it is, but there's it's a facility of now like 2 or 3 courses, and it's not Sabatis. That place looks awesome, and I would like to go and visit, but it's on the way between Portland and Acadia National Park because I played it, but I don't have it off the top of my head. It doesn't really matter for this discussion anyway. My main folks will email in and let us know. It was a driving range for golf. I talked about this before on the show. And it wasn't doing very well, so they pivoted to disc golf and now has big disc golf pro shop, like 4 courses. It's pay to play, as is most disc golf in Maine. And like I was talking to the guy, and he's like, "Yeah, like this has like turned around my business because the driving range just declined and declined and declined." And it's like in a more rural part of Maine. Sure. So I think it goes to what you're saying. I mean, you talked about the water rights, but it's also just like the number of people who are playing. Like golf has become a game that's for like urban professionals, right? It's like business people who work in big cities play golf. Mm-hmm. And then you have people who make destination trips to play golf. And obviously golf's not dead or anything like that. I mean, we just talked about the LIV thing, and people are making hundreds of millions of dollars. So we don't need to worry about it dying. But there was an oversupply of golf courses. There's now all this open land that was owned by a golf course, typically in a private setting or potentially by a municipality. And there's ways to use that land besides just selling it to developers or whatever to put apartment buildings on it. And I think this is a perfect example, right? So preserve. And we're going to see more of this, right? I don't know if it means the future of all disc golf courses or something like that, but like, there's these opportunities to get land that is perfect for disc golf at a relatively cheap price because typically it's going to be in an area that's not developed for housing, for example, right? There's not facilities designed for that. So I think it's a fascinating concept, and like the preserve just seems to keep getting better, right? Not only from a professional, disc golf pro tour stop perspective, but also just from the like show up and play around. Like you have somebody who's taking the time to continue to develop courses and make them better and better. Like Kale's on the front end of what is going to be a big trend over the next 10 years, 20 years, whatever, of private land being purchased for the purposes of creating pay-to-play disc golf.
Yep. And I think those old golf courses are just the perfect facilities to purchase and revamp around disc golf.
So speaking of trends, this brings us to our next segment, trend or anomaly. We kind of looked at some stats. We looked at some information, and we wanted to see, is this a trend or is it an anomaly? So Josh and I have each picked out a few things that we're going to throw back and forth at each other, and we're going to try to guess whether it's a trend or an anomaly. So Josh, I'll let you take it away.
All right. Okay. Let's start with, so Calvin had a subpar putting weekend. This is something we've seen happen for Calvin this year. He was 72% from Circle 1X and 13% from Circle 2. So my question for you, Charlie, is his bad putting a trend or an anomaly?
Depends on the time frame, I think.
Okay.
Obviously, if you go back, right, we talked about this earlier this season when he was struggling with the putting, right? That it kind of carried over from the end of last year. The thing is, He's actually been really good lately. So I'm going to call this one an anomaly.
I think that's right. I think this is an anomaly, sort of, because at Portland, he putts above 90% for C1X, but then he drops back down to like 68% for OTB, where he took second. But then DDO, where he takes 10th, it's 88%, which is, a respectable number. So it's kind of all over the place right now. I don't know if it's enough to call it a trend. So I think I agree with you that I'd probably call it an anomaly, but it's definitely something that we need to keep an eye on if Calvin is going to be competitive going into major season.
All right, Josh, trend or anomaly? Paige Pierce is unbeatable following vacation.
I think I only have two examples to roll off of. So I don't know if two examples make a trend, but if it does, I'll sure take that trend.
Maybe the trend will be that she wins 4 straight events following vacation. But we have to wait and see on that one. I have no stats for you. I don't have any data for you.
Right?
That's true. Yeah, European and U.S. women's over the next couple events. That's right. We have U.S. Women's, Idlewild, European.
Yep. If I was any FPO player, if this happens, if Paige goes 4 in a row, if I was any FPO player, if Paige goes on vacation, I would just not show up for the next month. I would take a break.
All right. Let me give you a real one.
Okay. All right.
Let me give you a real one. Kyle Klein's putting has trended to elite.
Elite is probably at this point like 90%, 80.
He was this weekend. Let me get the all-around stats here. Okay. This weekend, he was 92% inside the circle, 40% from circle 2. That's elite.
That's absolutely elite.
Above 90, above 40, that's elite.
Yeah. Has he trended, and is this something that is both been happening and Kyle Klein's a good putter, but I just don't think he's been putting that well this season. He would have had better finishes if so. So I'm going to call this one an anomaly for the season.
It's an interesting one.
Okay.
He's also been a little roller coastery, but check this out. DDO, 76% C1X. OTB, 77% C1X. Portland, 80% C1X. Beaver State, 86% C1X. Match play, 88% C1X. Preserve, 92% C1X.
I mean, I think that's a
trend I have found.
Yeah.
Now, I'm cherry picking a little bit by starting with DDO because before that, I think he was above 90 at a tournament. Okay. And so he is a very good putter who's had some bad weekends, but we're certainly seeing him going in the right direction with his overall game. And I think that putting is a big part of that. That it's like helping him pick up some strokes where we haven't seen him do that. Now, it's so interesting with Kyle Klein. If you just had to guess right now, where is he in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings?
I'd probably put him like the 13 to 15 mark.
He's 10th.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's crazy.
Think about that. He's a top 10 disc golfer
when he's bad
this season by points. Okay? And it's so interesting because you get this sensation from people finishing in the podium that they are the ones who are having this great season. But there's also value in what Kyle Klein has done, which is be consistently good.
Yep.
The thing is, it's so much about expectations. He was consistently great last year, and he hasn't been as good as he was last year, but he's still really good.
He's still really good.
And Luke Humphreys, somebody that we talked about so much at the beginning of the season because of such, this amazing start that he had. Luke Humphreys is now, can you guess where Luke Humphreys is in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings? Because remember, he was first.
Right.
He was first in the standings early this season.
I don't think he made match play, so he's probably got to be, I'm going to give him outside, I'd say 21st?
25th.
Ugh.
25th. And like, where's that coming from? Well, he scored a total of like maybe 50 points since Texas State's. Like, he's got multiple 1-point finishes over the last few weeks.
It's not
like,
great.
I think he's in the last month, he's scored 10 points, basically. And, you know, obviously he's cooled off.
Yeah.
He's cooled off a ton. But it's funny because it's like you think about it, and like everybody knows he's cooled off, but you're still like, wow, Luke Humphries, like, what a great story this season. And it's true. It is a great story. And Kyle Klein feels like, oh, what a disappointment Kyle Klein has been. I mean, kinda. But anyway, the putting is trending in the right direction.
Okay.
What you got?
Adam Hammes finishes 6th this weekend. Is Adam Hammes competitive again?
I think this is a trend because I feel like Adam's been up at the top for like a month.
Yes. I agree with you. And here's 2 reasons why. So first off, for Adam Hammes's finish, where did he? There he is. Okay. So he's still only 21st in the Pro Tour standings, but you know.
Yeah, but that's how I think it's an anomaly that he's been so bad
yes.
at the beginning of this season.
Yeah. So 5th place Portland, 6th place Preserve, 20th at Beaver State Fleeing is not great, but the past 2 Pro Tour events, he's done well. But I think what's significant is where we're going next and how he did last year at this stretch, right? So Adam Hammes obviously had a great season last year, but he plays well last year. So we get through Worlds, and then, you know, Des Moines, he's 6th. Deglow, he's 4th. Preserve, he was not great last year. He was 45th, so that's a great turnaround. But 15th at Idlewild, 1 Maple Hill, 5th place at the Match Play Championship, 19th Green Mountain Championship. So a little bit streaky last year, but the second half of his season was definitely, I guess the middle stretch was the best, but we're still about to hit some events that Adam Hammes did really well in last year, and I think that that's going to bode well for him to continue the strong performance on the Pro Tour. So both given how he's done recently as well as where he's going and what we know he's capable of, I agree with you. I think Adam Hammes is a trend.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, the guy's putting great again.
Yes.
I mean, that's really bad. He was just not himself out there at the beginning of the season. He was 97% for first place at the Preserve inside the circle, and sort of mediocre 29% from Circle 2. If we all wish that we could say that 29% Circle 2 putting was mediocre for us, but he was first in Circle 2 putting at Beaver State Fling at 62 with a very solid 88 C1X. The putting is coming back, and I think that like sometimes you talk about in basketball, you talk about a shooter needing to see the ball go in the hoop. Sometimes you're struggling from 3-point range, and you get to the free throw line, and like that's what you need. You need to watch the ball go through couple times, get the rhythm, and then boom, you know, you hit 4 for 4 on the second half or whatever. I think Adam Hammes needs to see the disc go in the basket. Like, there's a confidence thing that can start to snowball in the right direction when the putting is working well, that can make you feel confident off the tee because you're more comfortable. I remember Paul Macbeth talking about this a year ago or something. You're more comfortable when your putter is good because you know you don't have to get super close.
Yep.
You know you can just make a good shot, get inside Circle 2, and that you're going to have a great chance to card the birdie. And it takes pressure off of your approach game and off of the tee shots when you know that, you know, like the only way you're going to score is if you're like in the bullseye. And I think that's happening a little bit for Adam Hammes. And I will not be surprised to see if he ends up winning an Elite Series this year. Like, he had multiple wins last year.
Yeah.
And he's certainly capable. Certainly capable.
Definitely capable.
Okay, next up. Here's trend or anomaly.
Okay.
I'm forcing this one a little bit, but go with it.
All right.
Simon Lizotte is on a season-long hot streak. Not just like a couple events lately. He's on a season-long hot streak.
I mean, my gut says Anomaly because he has some really bad finishes at the beginning of the year.
It's true.
How long was that stretch, though, of the bad finishes?
You ready to do this?
Yeah.
So Simon is the 7th in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings.
Okay.
And remember, he barely played at the beginning of the year.
Right.
He came back and he played Waco.
Okay.
That was his first event of the season. He was terrible. He finished 60th.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Tune-up tournament. I mean, the dude had barely been playing. He just had the baby. I give him a pass. He doesn't play again until Champions Cup. Okay? Champions Cup, he finishes 35th. It's progress.
Okay.
He was not very good. But this was his second tournament of the year. And really, if you don't count Waco, right, this was the beginning of his season.
Okay.
Waco was in February, and Champions Cup was in April. So it's like months.
Waco's not in February.
Waco's in March.
Okay.
Whatever it is. Then here we go. Jonesboro, 6th. DDO, 2nd. OTB, 1st. Portland, 1st. Preserve, 3rd. I mean, I get it. If you want to say that, like, there was too much time, he wasn't playing, and he played bad in the tournaments that he played, I get it. But really, I don't feel like this is some turnaround story as much as it is Simon, like, got the rhythm of playing disc golf and then has been dominating all season.
Yeah. It's compelling.
Like, he's been the best player. It feels more recent because there was a lot of golf played without him.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a compelling argument. I mean, you miss, and I think the other part is that those are the Silver Series at the beginning of the year that you had a lot of players attending, Open at Belton,
Sure.
for example. And so not only did he miss out on Texas State's as well as LVC, so 2 Pro Tour events, but he also missed out on Open at Belton, a well-attended Silver Series. So you have 3 events. You have a bad performance at Waco that I think is easy to project in that entire time frame that everyone else is playing. And so that's why in my head, I'm like, oh, Anomaly, right? I don't think it's a season-long trend. But I think it's fair to argue, I mean, we are, I think, less punishing of people taking time off than a lot of other, power rankings or analytics. And I think that this is a case where, Simon taking time off and having that tune-up tournament at Waco, not great, but also should not necessarily hinder what has been an excellent season performance.
All right, what you got?
Ella Hansen. She took first in Circle 1 in regulation at the Preserve with 52%. Do you think her dominance at Circle 1 in regulation is a trend or an anomaly?
I'll call it a trend.
I'm not so convinced.
Okay.
For a player who's defined by her distance and driving, she is 8th in Circle 1 in regulation on the tour. I think top 5 probably is where she needed to be in order for this to really be a trend. But she's 8th overall on tour. And the other concern that I have, Beaver State Fling, for example, she was 15th. If we go to the Masters Cup,
doesn't shock me. Go ahead. I bet it wasn't very good at Masters Cup.
I
bet it was good at OTB.
So it was 23%. So it was top 5, but not
at OTB.
No, sorry, that was Masters Cup.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So not bad. I think part of Masters Cup though is that it's a course that's not well designed for FPO, and so it over exaggerates distance.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so, but she didn't separate herself like I think she could have. Over at OTB, Ella Hansen, let's get there. Ella Hansen was 5th at 31%.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean,
she's top 5 at the course you'd expect, but not overall.
Yes. I mean, that's what I was going to say. It's like the more technical courses, she's going to be less likely to be up there because especially with a course with a lot of par 4s and 5s with technical approach shots, that's where I think she doesn't find that Circle 1 shot enough.
Yep.
Like she gets it in Circle 2 because she has a huge tee shot and then doesn't quite get the technical approach shot dialed in correctly to get it inside Circle 1. And this is where her game has to evolve. But we're going to talk more about Ella Hansen in a little bit because she's been playing really well.
One thing I want to add real quick on Ella Hansen, does this give her great odds, though, coming into U.S. Women's at a course that may not be designed for FPO? We talked about that with Paige.
I don't know why you say it's not designed for FPO. I totally disagree. I think the courses are going to be well tuned for FPO. They're just going to be short.
I thought you had mentioned in the subscriber bonus that you had heard from
They're going to be
locals.
Yeah, that they're going to be really short.
Just
that they're
really
not going to be. They're not. It's not that they're not well designed for FPO players. I mean, the whole concept of the tournament is to like be have courses that are well tuned for a wide range of female players, and they're like sub 6,500 foot courses.
Got it.
Whereas the women are playing on tour 9,000 foot courses on a regular basis, sometimes over 10,000 feet. So I don't know what that means for Ella's chances. She actually played really well. Remember last year,
right.
That was her first podium finish as a professional at US Women's in Sacramento. I don't know.
Short courses remove upshots.
Yeah. But it's also tends to be more technical tee shots. So We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. Okay, here we go. Paul McBeth had a subpar tee to green performance at the Preserve. He was not great. He was about 10 strokes gained behind the leaders.
Okay. Wow.
Now, he wasn't terrible, but like by Paul McBeth standards, this is the category in which you expect him to be up at the top, and he was not.
Okay.
Is this a trend or an anomaly?
I think we've talked about this, that his tee to green is kind of what's been struggling. So I'm going to go with trend.
I think it is a trend, Josh. Even though he had a better result at Portland, he was up, maybe 3 or 4 strokes off the leaders. Mm-hmm. He also had a ton of OB strokes, which is not counted.
Ooh, yeah.
But obviously affects your ability from tee to green. At OTB, he was 10 strokes behind the leaders. I think this has been very clearly a trend since the beginning of the season after he had that strong start in the win at Waco. I think we just have not seen Paul McBeth able to get to the green with chances at birdies enough. And it's a rare sight for him, but it's been an issue.
All right, last one for you, Charlie. This one's a little bit cheeky. Kona Panis finished in 28th at the Preserve, missing cash. Not a good. I think it was like 36% C1X putting. So a rough tournament for Kona. Colton Montgomery finished 22nd at the Preserve. So trend or anomaly, Colton Montgomery beating Kona Panis outright in placement.
Oh no. By the sheer statistics, I'm going to have to call this one an anomaly. It's not a good situation for Kona Panis.
It is an anomaly. LVC and Preserve are the only 2 tournaments that Colton has done it. I would be interested to pull percentages and see, where relative to the field they're finishing. But yes, that is a little too outrageous that Colton would finish regularly ahead of Kona. I will say Kona, I mean, she has had some really bad finishes, but she's also had some okay performances. And I really think that Kona is just falling victim to the expectations of a really, really large contract and is playing about, imagine, take out last year, right? Take out her win at Waco, take out the big contract. Is she really performing that different than what you would kind of expect to see from Kona Panis? I don't think so.
It's a really interesting question. So she's 17th in the Pro Tour standings right now.
Okay.
Last year, she finished 7th. And then in 2020, she was 7th. Now, that was kind of a weird season, a little shortened season. 2019, she was 13th. Now, you have to do a little bit of adjustment for the Europeans returning to tour this year after a couple of years away. But the fact is, while I agree to an extent with what you're saying, that she's regressed back towards her career mean a little bit, I actually think she's declining a little bit in overall quality. Now, obviously, we've got new players coming on tour. Ella Hansen, Holland Handley. We have these exciting up-and-coming players.
Yeah.
The Europeans are back. That has an impact. But at the end of the day, there's been too many times where Kona has not made the cash. And look, you got to tip the cap. she did some things that were very smart, developing her marketing, developing her social media, and she had a career year in a contract year. And we've talked about contract year Calvin. Well, we had contract year Kona last year, and she got paid. That's how it goes.
Yep.
This happens in pro sports all the time. Some guy goes beast mode in a contract season, gets a fat contract, and then is not nearly as good the next year. Seen it time and time again. Happens. It's happening to Kona.
Yep.
I'm at the point where I'm ready to say there's no way DD's getting good return on investment there. Now, there's obviously years left on this contract for it to turn around, but like, I don't know.
I'm curious if they're breaking even.
Relative to other players who are playing at her level, she does get a lot of airtime.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do a mid-season check-in and see where things stand in this 2022 season as we get ready for majors coming up. We got 2 in July. Looking forward to talking about it next, right here on the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. You can save up to $50 right now during Pound's summer sale on limited edition Octothorpes, Carltons, and fanny packs. If you go to pounddiscgolf.com, you'll find the link to the summer sale on the homepage. And again, you save 10% off all the limited edition bags, and they are beautiful. So pick up 10% off Octothorpe today at pounddiscgolf.com. Welcome back to the Upshot. It's time to take a look at where things stand after basically half of the tournaments of this season have been completed. Josh, just overall, what are your thoughts on the 2022 season so far? Big picture.
I think that big picture, MPO has had a diverse slate of winners and podium finishers. When we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, FPO has been largely dominated by your core 4 of Paige, Katrina, Kristen, and Valerie. Now, they have had a diverse slate of podium finishers there as well, and some new up-and-comers who are starting to make their name. But, I mean, the 4 dominant players of the season, Valerie being a surprise, I will add that, right? Seeing Valerie come in and be a part of that group shows a big surprise in how much she's done this season. But it really has been, your top group and then everybody else. Whereas over an MPO, that has not been the case at all. That's my big picture mid-season check-in.
That sounds about right. I mean, it's been certainly a very exciting season. We've had some playoffs. We've had some wild shots. I mean, people were talking about how many throw-ins we saw at the Preserve this weekend, and it's true. I mean, guys throwing it in from all over the place.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the standings. If not really the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings. I mean, that's easy enough. We can look at that at any time.
Sure.
But wins and top 10s and things of the sort. So, let's start an FPO since you already mentioned it. So Paige Pierce has 4 wins this year. This is Elite Series and Majors. Then you have 2 players with 2 wins. That's Val and Kristen Tatar. And then Katrina has 1 win. Man, I have to say, like, it surprises me that in some ways that Katrina only has 1 win, given how good it felt like she started the year. And I mean, she does have 5 podiums, and she's never missed the top 10.
True.
But, at the end of the day, like, it's still just 1 win.
Yeah, that's same numbers as Paige, actually. Identical. 5 podiums and 9 top 10s.
So question for you.
Okay.
Outside of those players, Paige, Valerie, Kristen, Katrina, who has the most podium finishes this season in FPO?
I know Missy's got 2 second place finishes, so I'll say Missy.
Missy's a good guess. Missy is 5th, or
Okay.
6th on the list.
6th. Okay, so who's in between the core 4 and Missy?
Ella Hansen
Let's go.
Ella Hansen
Hansen's
now,
so cool.
after this weekend, has 3
Ella Hansen's so cool.
after this weekend, has 3 podium finishes. That's more even than Valerie Mondahano, because Mondahano's only 2 podium finishes were also her 2 wins. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Valerie Mondahano's had a better season than Ella Hansen. Wins matter, but that's pretty amazing. Like,
wow.
Ella Hansen especially has come on strong lately.
Yeah.
And yes, she's probably outperformed on the courses on which you would expect, but I think that she's getting to the point where, she's dangerous week in and week out. And it just feels like a matter of time before she gets a win at this point.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I think what you've seen with Ella Hansen, so compare her with Missy Gannon. Missy Gannon has 2 podiums as opposed to Ella's 3. But Missy has 7 of 9 top 10s and 9 top 20s. Ella Hansen has 5 of 7. And so it's not quite, Ella's got higher highs and lower lows than Missy Gannon.
Yes. Right. Not surprising.
Not surprising. Yeah.
Not surprising in their style of play.
I think Ella's high is absolutely an Elite Series win.
Yeah. So how about Kristen Tatar? Never missed the top 10. Never missed the podium. 2 wins. Average finishing place 1.83 this season. That's her average finish. 1.83. Now, obviously, she's played fewer events than the American women. But even Paige, with her 4 wins, is averaging 3.11 average finish. Kristen Tatar has a chance to have an insane season. It really sucks that she was A, not able to come defend her title at the Preserve, and B, it's even worse that she's not going to be U.S. Women's. It's going to have to skip the major. But, COVID's still happening.
You ready for a fun stat?
Yeah.
So Kristen Tatar has only played 6 events. She still is second in total cash this season at Elite Series and majors.
Wow.
Paige is first at 25, a little over 25,000. Kristen is at 21,000. Third place is Katrina, 18.
It's epic. Okay, so the other player I want to talk about right now is there's 2 more players I want to talk about. Owen Scoggins.
Okay. Yeah, that's
now.
Right.
Obviously, Owen has the match play win, so these stats don't include sort of exhibition events like that, and that's awesome because her money winnings this season are 10,433, and then she won 10 grand for winning match play, so she doubled it in a day. That's awesome. But Owen's been really, really good. 5 top 10s and 7 starts. Has a podium finish and has just looked the part, averaging 8th place finish overall. That has her 6th on tour right now behind Kristen, Paige, Katrina, Val, and Missy Gannon. So just want to shout out Owen. And Kat Murch has also been very good. I mean, she's cooled off a little bit lately, but she still has 8 top 20s and 8 starts, 5 top 10s and 8 starts. She's got a podium finish, and she's averaging a 10th place finish. So she's just behind Owen Scoggins in the average finish category. She's been great. I think she's got a chance to kind of dial it in the backstretch of the tour as well.
Yeah. I think you hit everyone in FPO who really have shown. I mean, we've seen players like Holland Hanley, Maria Oliva have good weekends. I expect to see that continue, but I think you've really hit, who our core players are to be watching this season. Who do you think? Are there any odds outside of, like, what would you say are the likelihood of the top 4 winning player of the year? 99%?
Yeah. I wouldn't put a bet on that on the field. I don't think you can give me a number I'd put a bet on.
No.
I mean, the only hypothetical thing is that
the Missy Gannon
one
situation.
of Ella, Missy, or Owen wins like 4 events down the stretch of the season.
If one of them wins Worlds, what do they need to do in addition? I think 2 more?
With Paige already at 4 wins and
That's
a major, like...
I forget Paige has a major too. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta have to win at least 3 tournaments, I think.
Yeah.
Worlds is not enough.
Yeah.
Worlds is not enough.
I forget last season too was the shortened season, or like the not shortened, but kind of the with only 2 majors, so it made it the player of the year conversation.
The majors had a bigger impact
than they will this
individually because of that.
Yeah.
Let's move to MPO.
Okay.
I'm going to ask some comparison questions. Now, we've already talked about how there's been now 7 different Elite Series and major winners. I'll give you the list. Ricky, Simon, Calvin, Paul, Bradley Williams, Chris Dickerson, Drew Gibson. That's the list. Okay. Great list. Within the categories of wins, I want you to rank the players for the season that they've had. So with 2 wins, you have 2 players, Ricky and Simon. Who's had the better year?
Okay, I have not looked at the stats page, so I'm going off of feel. Yes.
Gut.
And then I'll let you correct me. I am going to say Ricky because of his performance at the major.
And I think that's fair. I do think the answer is still Ricky. I think Simon has been better in this stretch of season that he has played.
Mm-hmm.
But Ricky he's played more tournaments.
Yep.
He has more top 10s. He has more top 20s. His average finish is 5th. Simon's is 15th. Now, obviously, that's being heavily brought down right now by Waco and to some extent Champions Cup, which we already talked about. But I think it's a little premature to say that Simon is like the best player this season. I still think the answer is Ricky.
Okay.
Still think the answer is Ricky. But Ricky has not won the most money. That award goes to Calvin Heimberg, who has $30,500 to Ricky's $29,950. So then let me ask you this. Rank the single winners seasons. Calvin, Paul, Chris Dickerson, Drew Gibson, Bradley Williams.
Okay. Bradley Williams is at the bottom of that list.
Okay.
Drew Gibson's next at the bottom of that list.
Okay.
Paul
you have
is
Calvin,
next.
Paul, and Chris.
Okay. Paul is in 3rd.
Okay.
So you said Calvin's won the most money. Chris Dickerson hasn't toured as much, but Chris Dickerson has the major. I think it's probably Calvin, but it's just because Chris Dickerson just taken time off. Like, it's really hard for me to evaluate Chris Dickerson right now. This little hiatus is not going to be a big of a problem once we have the context of the full season. In half the season, though, when you've taken a third of that stretch off, it's really hard to evaluate. More than a third, probably half of that season. So he's taken a quarter of the season off. It's really hard to evaluate him in this short span. So I'd probably go Calvin, Chris, Paul, Drew, Bradley.
All right. I really do not quibble with that. I really do not quibble with that. I think everything you said is exactly right. Statistically, Chris looks great. He's got 5 top 10s and 6 starts. He has the major win. His average finish is 6.33, which puts him only behind Ricky this season. Calvin is very close at 6.67 average place finish. But the thing is, Chris has only played 6 tournaments and Calvin's played 9.
Right.
So a third is actually a pretty good guess. At the end of the day, like, Chris Dickerson has 1 podium finish in 6 starts. Calvin has 5 in 9. I mean, it kind of surprises me to see that, right? That he has 5 podium finishes this season in 9 starts. That's a really good number.
It's a great number.
Like, when you look at podium percentage, right? How often are you podiuming, right? So top 3, it removes the pressure of always having to win a little bit. Mm-hmm. Number 1 in the season is Simon at 57%. Number 2 is Calvin.
And
he's ahead of Ricky.
The full season.
Yes. Yeah. He's even ahead of Ricky. Ricky's at 50. And then there's a massive drop-off to Paul McBeth at 25%. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Pretty crazy. Guess who's next on the podium percentage finish list? Simon, Calvin, Ricky, Paul. Who's next?
I just looked. It's also the only other person outside of those top lists who have multiple podium finishes.
That's
our
true.
Boy Aaron Gossage.
Aaron Gossage, baby.
Let's go.
I love it.
That's incredible.
Okay, so how about average finish this season? Ricky, Chris, and Calvin are your top 3. Who are your next 3? It is
So Ricky,
not Paul Macbeth. It is not Simon Lizotte. I'll give you a hint.
Ricky, Chris, and Calvin are first 3. So average finish. Okay. I like Aaron Gossage.
No, he's actually pretty far down the list.
He must have some bad finishes.
Probably like 15th.
Okay. I'm going to take Joel Freeman.
Good guess. Yes, that's correct. He is in 6th place, 10th average finish overall. I'm
going to take Isaac Robinson.
I love the guess, but it's not even close.
No? Okay.
He's not on this list. I'm gonna have to look him up separately.
Okay.
There may be like a minimum number of starts or something. Or
maybe that's kind of why I was giving it to Isaac Robinson, is because he doesn't have that many starts.
Isaac Robinson was 5th at Waco, 19th at Champions Cup, 3rd at Portland. So he would be up there, but he doesn't have enough starts to be qualifying.
That checks out. Is Kyle Klein in there?
You can get one of them at least. Kyle's around 10th.
All right, I don't know who else.
Who's been really surprisingly good.
Gannon Burr.
Really Gannon Burr.
I can't believe 4th. I forgot about Gannon Burr. Okay.
Gannon Burr is 4th behind Ricky, Chris, and Calvin.
Okay.
And 5th is somebody who has not toured much.
I don't know.
Matt Oram.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
he has enough starts to qualify?
Barely. He has 5 exactly, and that's the cutoff right now. So there you go. That's your list, and I think it's it sounds about right. Gannon and Joel have been very impressive when they've played. Chris Dickerson and Matty O have been as promised, right?
Yep.
Delivering on what we know that they can do, and then you've got Macbeth, Conrad, Simon, and Nico, rounding out your top 10. So pretty interesting. It's been an interesting season. I think the player of the year race is still very open. Ricky and Simon are at the front of the pack right now, the pair of wins, but I think there's lots of time left, and certainly, somebody can snag a couple of majors. That might be enough.
Yeah. I think my list right now for top 3 is Ricky, Simon, and Chris.
I think that's fair.
That's your favorite top 3 right now in the player of the year race.
I think that's fair. All right. I think we might have one other stat here. Oh, I wanted to give a special shout out to Paige Pierce. We mentioned she has 4 wins this season. That's the most. She also now has 70 all-time Elite Series and major wins. That's the most in history of disc golf. You name it. Now, obviously, back in Climo's day, we didn't have Elite Series, or not for much of his day anyway.
Right.
They only had the majors, and there weren't always that many. So it's a little bit of an unfair stat, but you still got to just tip the cap, pay the respects to Paige Pierce for 70 wins. That's more than Macbeth. 70. That is insane in about 10 years of competition. So really awesome to see that. All right. Well, that is going to do it for really quick purse watch.
We got our purse watch. Yeah, I got a purse watch.
We're going to go quick. Preserve coming in at 83,250. That is just off the high at a DGPT event this season. Portland Open came in at 85 grand. And so Preserve just a few $100s short at 83,250. That's up 10% on last season. They were at 75,480 a year ago. So $8,000 to the MPO winner, $5,000 to the FPO winner, and $45,000 in added cash. So very, very healthy purse at Preserve.
Interesting, though, that 10% is one of the lowest numbers of the season. Actually, just behind or just ahead of LVC for tournaments that were not Silver Series or National Tours, right? National Tours, obviously, that moved to Silver Series dropped a ton. But for Elite Series, LVC is the only tournament with less of a jump, but it's because of all the tournaments thus far this year, the Preserve was the highest payout last year.
That's right.
So it's, not as high of a jump, but it's because that Preserve already met a really high standard for last year's payout.
Big denominator.
Yes. So makes that a little bit more difficult, but obviously a well-funded tournament if they're only behind Portland.
Yeah. So last year up to this point, the top payout tournament was, there were a couple of NTs that were at the 76,000 range. Mm-hmm. But on the Pro Tour, LVC was 68,000 last year, DDO was 69,000, and then Preserve was 75,000. That's all last year's numbers.
Yes.
So Preserve catching up to the 80,000+ mark. Last year, Preserve kind of marked the start of a big increase in payouts that started to pile up when spectators were coming back to courses, and we sort of felt the growth of disc golf passing through into payouts. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for our interview series. We're talking with Johnny McRae. Can't wait to talk to him. Can't wait to see him back on the course, out on tour. And so we hope you join us for that. And then we'll see you Thursday for our U.S. Women's Preview Show. Talk to you then.